Chapter 6: Towards Greatness. When Gandhi landed at Durban, Natal, in May 1893, his mission was simply to win a lawsuit, earn some money and perhaps, at long last, start his career. "Try my luck in South Africa," he said. As he left the boat to meet his employer, a Moslem businessman named Dada Abdulla Sheth, Gandhi wore a fashionable frock coat, pressed trousers, shining shoes and a turban. South African society was sharply divided by color, class, religion and profession, and each group jealously defended the words and symbols which demarcated it from the others. English not-sign men called all Indians coolies or Samis, and they referred to coolie teachers, coolie merchants, coolie barristers, etc., forgetting, deliberately, that if coolie meant anything it meant manual laborer. To rise above the coolie level, Parsis from India styled themselves Persians, and Muslims from India chose to be regarded as Arabs, which they were not. A turban was officially recognized as part of the costume of an Arab, but not of a Hindu. Several days after arriving, Gandhi went to court. The magistrate ordered him to remove his turban. Gandhi demurred and left the court. To obviate further trouble, he decided to wear an English hat. "No," said Dada Abdulla Sheth, "a hat on a colored man is the symbol of a waiter." The lawsuit required Gandhi's presence in Pretoria, the capital of Transvaal. First-class accommodations were purchased for him at Durban, where he boarded a train for the overnight journey. At Maritzburg, the capital of Natal, a white man entered the compartment, eyed the brown intruder, and withdrew to reappear in a few moments with two railway officials who told Gandhi to transfer to third class. Gandhi protested that he held a first-class ticket. That didn't matter. He had to leave. He stayed. So they fetched a policeman who took him off with his luggage. Gandhi could have returned to the train and found a place in the third-class car. But he chose to remain in the station waiting room. It was cold in the mountains. His overcoat was in his luggage, which the railway people were holding. Afraid to be insulted again, he did not ask for it. All night long, he sat and shivered, and brooded. Should he return to India? This episode reflected a much larger situation. Should he address himself to it or merely seek redress of his personal grievance, finish the case, and go home to India? He had encountered the dread disease of color prejudice. It was his duty to combat it. To flee, leaving his countrymen in their predicament, would be cowardice. The frail lawyer began to see himself in the role of a David assailing the Goliath of racial discrimination. Many years later, in India, Dr. John R. Mott, a Christian missionary, asked Gandhi, "What have been the most creative experiences in your life?" In reply, Gandhi told the story of the night in the Maritzburg station. Why, of all people, did it occur to Gandhi to resist the evil? The next morning Indians he met recounted similar experiences. They made the best of conditions. You cannot strike your head against a stone wall. But Gandhi intended to test its hardness. His father and grandfather had defied authority. His own Mughal contacts with it in India were unhappy. He had rejected the authoritative, time and tradition-honored version of the Bhagavad Gita for his own. Was it this inherent anti-authoritarianism that made him rebel against the government color line? Was he more sensitive, resentful, unfettered and ambitious because his life, so far, had been a failure? Did he aspire to be strong morally because he was weak physically? Did challenging immoral practices in an uncrowded arena present greater opportunities for service than the pursuit of personal gain in crowded courts? Was it destiny, heritage, luck, the Gita, or some other immeasurable quantity? That bitter night at Maritzburg the germ of social protest was born in Gandhi. But he did nothing. He proceeded on his business to Pretoria.
The Charlestown to Johannesburg lap was negotiated by stagecoach. There were 3 seats on the coach box, usually occupied by the driver and the leader of the trip. On this occasion, the leader sat inside and told Gandhi to ride with the driver in a Hottentot. There was space for Gandhi inside, but he did not want to make a fuss and miss the coach, so he mounted to the driver's perch. Later, however, the debtor decided he wanted to smoke and get some air. He spread a piece of dirty sacking at the driver's feet on the footboard and instructed Gandhi to sit on it. Gandhi complained. Why could he not go inside? At this, the debtor began to curse and try to drag him off the coach. Gandhi clung to the brass rail, though he felt that his wrists would break. But he did not relax his hold. The debtor continued alternately to pummel and pull him until the white passengers intervened. "Don't beat him," they shouted. "He is not to blame. He is right." The debtor, yielding to the customers, relented, and Gandhi entered the coach. The next day, Gandhi wrote to the coach company and received a written assurance that he would not be molested again. In Johannesburg, Gandhi went to an hotel, but failed to get a room. Indians laughed at his naivety. "This country is not for men like you," a rich Indian merchant said to him. "For making money we do not mind pocketing insults, and here we are." The same person advised Gandhi to travel third class to Pretoria because conditions in the Transvaal were much worse than in Natal. But Gandhi was obdurate. He ordered the railway regulations to be brought to him, read them, and found that the prohibition was not precise. He therefore penned a note to the station master stating that he was a barrister and always traveled first. It was his 9th day and first journey in South Africa and would soon apply in person for a ticket. The station master proved sympathetic. He sold Gandhi the ticket on condition that he would not sue the company if the guards or the passengers ejected him. The collector came to examine the tickets and held up 3 fingers. Gandhi vehemently refused to move to third class. The sole other passenger, an Englishman, scolded the guard and invited Gandhi to make himself comfortable. "If you want to travel with a coolie, what do I care?" the guard grumbled. At the station in Pretoria, Gandhi asked a railway official about hotels, but got no helpful information. An American Negro, who overheard the conversation, offered to take Gandhi to an inn run by an American, Johnston's Family Hotel. Mr. Johnston cheerfully accommodated him but suggested, with apologies, that since all the other guests were white, he take dinner in his room. Waiting for his food, Gandhi pondered the adventures he had had on this strange trip. Not everybody was prejudiced. Some whites felt uncomfortable about it all. Presently Mr. Johnston knocked and said, "I was ashamed of having asked you to take your dinner here, so I spoke to the other guests about you, and asked them if they would mind your having dinner in the dining room. They said they had no objection, and they did not mind your staying here as long as you liked." Gandhi enjoyed the meal downstairs. But lodgings in a private home were cheaper than Mr. Johnston's hotel. Within a week of his arrival, Gandhi summoned all the Indians in Pretoria to a meeting. He wanted to present to them a picture of their condition. He was 24. This was his first public speech. The audience consisted of Muslim merchants interspersed with a few Hindus. He urged 4 things. Tell the truth even in business. Adopt more sanitary habits. Forget caste and religious divisions. Learn English. A barber, a clerk and a shopkeeper accepted his offer of English lessons. The barber merely wished to acquire the vocabulary of his trade. Gandhi dogged them for months and would not let them be lazy or lax in their studies. Other meetings followed, and soon Gandhi knew every Indian in Pretoria. He communicated with the railway authorities and elicited the promise that properly dressed Indians might travel first or second class. Though open to arbitrary interpretation, this represented progress. Gandhi was encouraged. The Praetorian Indians formed the permanent organization. The lawsuit for which Gandhi came to South Africa brought him into contact with Roman Catholics, Protestants, Quakers and Plymouth Brethren. Some of them tried to convert him to Christianity. Gandhi did not discourage their efforts. He promised that if the inner voice commanded it, he would embrace the Christian faith. He read the books they gave him and tried to answer their searching questions about Indian religions. When he did not know the answers, he wrote to friends in England and to Rick and Bai, the jeweler poet of Bombay. Once Michael Coates, a Quaker, urged Gandhi to discard the beads which, as a member of the Hindu Vaishnava sect, he always wore around his neck. "This superstition does not become you," Coates exclaimed. "Come, let me break the necklace." "No, you will not," Gandhi protested. "It is a sacred gift from my mother." "But do you believe in it?" Coates questioned. "I do not know its mysterious significance," Gandhi said, defensively. "Do not think I should come to harm if I did not wear it. But I cannot, without sufficient reason, give up a necklace which he put round my neck out of love and in the conviction that it would be conducive to my welfare. When, with the passage of time, it wears away and breaks of its own accord, I shall have no reason to get a new one. But this necklace cannot be broken." Later in life he did not wear beads. Gandhi's Christian friends taught him the essence of Christianity. They said if he believed in Jesus he would find redemption. "I do not seek redemption from the consequences of sin," Gandhi replied. "I seek to be redeemed from sin itself." They said that was impossible. Nor could Gandhi understand why, if God had one son, he could not have another. Why could he go to heaven and attain salvation only as a Christian? Did Christianity have a monopoly of heaven? Was God a Christian? Did he have prejudices against non-Christians? Gandhi liked the sweet Christian hymns and many of the Christians he met. But he could not regard Christianity as the perfect religion or the greatest religion. From the point of view of sacrifice, it seemed to me that the Hindus greatly surpassed the Christians. And Gandhi assured him that Hinduism was unexcelled in subtlety and profundity. On the other hand, Gandhi doubted whether the sacred Hindu days were the only inspired word of God. Why not also the Bible and the Quran? He recoiled from the competitiveness of religions. He also disliked the competitiveness of lawyers. His client, Dada Abdulla Sheth, and the opposing party, Type Sheth, were relatives, and the cost of the litigation, dragging out for more than a year, was ruining both. Gandhi suggested a compromise out of court. Finally, the plaintiff and defendant agreed on an arbitrator who heard the case and decided in favor of Dada Abdulla. Now a new problem confronted Gandhi. Type was called upon to pay £37,000 in costs. This threatened him with bankruptcy. Gandhi induced Dada Abdulla to permit the loser to pay in installments stretched over a very extended period. In preparing the case, Gandhi learned the secrets of bookkeeping and some of the fine points of law. Above all, it reinforced his opinion that settlements out of court were preferable to trials. He followed this practice during his 20 years as a lawyer. He lost nothing thereby, not even money, certainly not my soul. The lawsuit settled, Gandhi returned to Durban and prepared to sail for India. He had been in South Africa almost 12 months. Before his departure, his associates gave him a farewell party. During the festivities, someone handed him the day's Natal Mercury, and in it he found a brief item regarding the Natal government's proposed bill to deprive Indians of their right to elect members of the legislature. Gandhi stressed the necessity of resisting this move. His friends were ready, but they were unsign lettered, lame men, they said, and powerless without him. He consented to stay a month. He remained 20 years fighting the battle for Indian rights. He won.